KNick of
Cool.
Time show. Go check out that show. It's a great show. It's a great show.
York, New York, big city of dreams. New York, New York, big city of dreams.
What's going on, KOT family? It's your boy Lee Estrabito, aka the Latin Assassin, filling in here for Jay Ellis. Wanted to have a little quick conversation with my main man Fritz Alessandor, host of the NBA Economy Show, as well as the Fifth Beatle mod god here for the KOT, and wanted to have a conversation with my salary cap guru on potential Knicks fixes, both quick and long term. Break down some of the names we've been hearing in the chatter and it's for Klitz cycle. Talk about the validity of them. How realistic are they as targets? What kind of role or solution would they provide for the team? And also, it's an important time, I think, to have this discussion because the Knicks have been very inconsistent with the new year. They bounced back against the LA Clippers for a pretty solid win. We looked pretty good offensively. You could even say we looked decent defensively, but I still think there are a lot of question marks. I know Fritz has question marks about the roster, the long-term stability of the roster, some of the financial implications, and also there's questions going about right now on is this a championship roster as is? Is Jalen Brunson a championship 1A? You know how I feel about that. Also, is Cat a championship 2A or 1B? So we're going to have some conversations on guys, some that we think are viable that we can go after, some that we think are not. And I think it's important. You have me for some of the color commentary, but I think getting down to the facts and figures and not just having kind of these amalgamous or hypothetical conversations, that to be tethered to the reality, I think is very important. And Fritz is always so great at that and making sure that we are all contextualized with where we are in the second apron, how close we are to the second apron, and what deals naturally be made. And most importantly, what would it cost? So with that introduction, Fritz, man, how are you doing, my guy? Great to have you here for this show.
Yeah, doing great. This is that time of season where teams who think they're toward the top try to get that advantage to make sure they stay at the top. Where teams try to get that final piece to make that championship run. So this is an important time of year. Like this is outside of like the off season building. This is your last tinkering before the stretch run.
And I've never been one to really facilitate wild trade scenarios. And this show in general, even way before I was ever on it, has never really ever been a nits for Klitz show. Never been about major trades or swing for the fences or still after LeBron, so on and so forth. So when we do talk about trades, it's a very real part of the NBA. And Leon Rose has been very active in the trade market just about every year. At the deadline, he pulls off some kind of move that changes the roster on the fringes. So I do think it's important to recognize how can we get better and really identify what are the needs positionally, skill wise, on the offensive end, on the defensive end, and does this team right now fit in size, in height, in skill, in shooting, and some of these options we're going to be discussing kind of get into the weeds of that. So without further ado, man, we're going to talk about our first target, which I think is probably the one that most people are talking the most about right now, which is the San Antonio Spurs, Jeremy Sochan, a Baylor grad, a star player at Baylor, and someone who has fallen out of the Spurs rotation as of late, racking up DNPs under head coach Mitch Johnson. Jeremy Sochan right now is having dips across the board in his career averages. He's only averaging around 5 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists per game, while shooting 29% from three. Now, the pros on Sochan, before I hand over to Fritz to get his thoughts, I would like to get his thoughts both on player fit and also the financial implications. The pros on him have been he's a switchable defender, right? He's someone that can play in spots defending the point of attack. We all know Greg Popovich initially had him playing point guard in Wemby's first year on the team. That was a failed experiment. But he can also play guard the center as a fronter or as a transition defender. He can guard the pick and roll, both in the ball handler and as a roller. He's also someone who's a decent rebounder and a decent playmaker, which is why Popovich wanted to have him in that point guard slot because he has decent court awareness and court vision. but some of the knots on him. The handle is not super strong, which is something that this team currently struggles with from the wing positions, Bridges, Hart, OG. Also, as you saw with the 29% from three, he's not a great shooter. He doesn't space the floor. One of the reasons why Dursan Yabusele was so crucial as an addition was his ability to spread the floor with his three-point shot, both off the dribble and his catch and shoot. Sochan brings none of that. Also, Sochan kind of has a swarmy, me over team personality, which I alluded to on this podcast and on Twitter, that if you are kind of being fallen out of a championship rotation, the Spurs are in championship contention. If you fall out of a championship roster, to me, that's a red flag to the rest of the teams in the NBA. If you can't be a part of the winning culture in San Antonio, is that the type of player you really want to take a flyer on or trade a pick for or give up young talent for? I think that's a very important question that should be asked. So with all of that preamble stated, Fritz, how do you feel about Jeremy Sochan as a player fit, but also as a financial implication?
I think he's an interesting fit. He brings a lot of things that would be welcome to this team. I just to have a young player who bring like hustle, bring some intangibles that just New York loves. That would be great. But you have to think about some of the things around that, because not only you're adding a player to this roster, you have to subtract from another player. Not just who you have to trade, but the time. You're subtracting time from other players who are currently in the rotation.
Now let's talk about the financials. Sochan is in the last year of his deal. He's looking for an extension. So I think one of the reasons why he's kind of fallen out of the rotation is the Spurs are basically signaling to the rest of the league not only his availability, but their reluctance and albeit refusal to pay him an extension of the current $7 million salary, $7,096,231 that he's on the last year of his rookie scale deal. He was a lottery pick. I can't remember what year he came out, 01 or 02. I think before Wemby. He was kind of the first piece that they got in this new young core that they built, even though he's fallen out of the rotation. So he's looking for an extension. So $7 million, you can do the math and say Dursan Yabusele's $5.5 million isn't enough. But if you add Batum Dadier, who is just under $3 million, I believe, right, Fritz?
Yes, 2.8.
Right. That would be enough to get him. And that would also put us a little bit below, even more below the second apron than we are now. Now, I believe we would have to sign a secondary player, right? If you send out two and you only get one back, we would have to turn like, what's his name? Trey Jameson into a standard deal. Is that correct?
Actually, no. That's one of the things I had to research last night. Okay. Trey Jameson wouldn't work. Kevin McCullough wouldn't work. The only player that would pretty much work is Dink Pate. Like, it would have to sign Dink Pate because Kevin McCullough has a year of NBA service.
Okay.
He was a two-way last year. Jameson has been in the NBA before.
Right.
So he has NBA. He has NBA service. Experience. So they if they sign a contract with the NBA, they would start at $2 million.
Let me put my conspiracy bandana on for a minute. Do you think is there any validity to a theory that is why Dink Pate hasn't been tendered any type of standard or two-way contract? Is a possibility that if a trade occurs, he would then be targeted as that elevation player?
He's the only one that they can sign for 1.2.
No, not the only one. There's other players in the next G League, I'm assuming they could. But he's the only realistic one because
realistic one we would play 1.2 million to. Everybody else we would have to be paying $2 million to.
As Jay Ellis says, things that make you go, There could be a line delineation there of thinking that you to draw some conspiracy level conclusions that maybe Leon wanted to see. There's like 2 or 3 players on the roster that he was looking at as hypotheticals. Do they fit? Do they not fit? And by the trade deadline, he had a move in place with Brock Hour that, all right, if X and Y equals Z, then that other component of Dean Pate is going to be that player to replace X when X and Y are sent out. X and Y being Yerson Yabusele and Batum Dadier. So that's an interesting deal. I'll give my 2 cents on would I do this deal or not before I pass it off to you, and we'll oscillate between who goes first on some of these. Sochan, oh man, the ceiling. I think of all the names that we're about to list and talked about, this has the highest ceiling. If obviously you're talking about a lottery pick, right, compared to Yabusele, or a lottery pick compared to Batum Dadier, the upside is massive. If he hit and he returned to form, you're talking about a switchable defender that's ready to play in the NBA right now, that gives you real NBA size. That's also the prototype of the modern NBA player. Positionless, can pass, can store at the rim, can run in transition, can defend the 1 through 5. The shooting part is probably, of all the negatives about him, is the one I'm the least concerned with, because the Knicks have shown that we have guys shooting career highs. All of a sudden, do surprise, one of the best shooters in the NBA. Josh Hart's shot has returned to form. Mikal Bridges has been consistent across the board in his shooting. So to me, if there's any Knicks, if there's any shooting coach that can get a player of Sochan's non-caliber up to form, I think it's the Knicks, where maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't be as confident in that capacity as I am now. So I'm not worried about that, especially the volume's only like 3 a game. If he can get to 35%, that's basically what Yabusele is doing right now, right? Yabusele is only shooting 35, 36% on very low volume. If Sochan can get to that, plus bring all the other intangibles and defense, that's a win. That's best case scenario. So do I make this deal in best case scenario? Of course. But deals are not done on base case scenario. They're done with a lot of hypotheticals and a lot of unknowns. Overall, no. I think I would retain Yabusele and keep Batum Dadier, not because I believe in him or his worth, but because of the value that he might provide eventually once he returns to some kind of form, whether in the G League or in spot minutes in the NBA, to trade later on down the line. I don't think Sochan is worth the risk. And my number one red flag is when a player falls out of rotation in a championship level squad, that's the type of player that you don't give up assets for.
Yeah. Also, yeah, it's also important to see why he's fallen out of favor. They prioritize Wemby. Wemby is everything. He's the future. If your playing style doesn't mesh with Wemby, you're just not going to be there. And I think they signaled that he's on his way out. I think when you think about with the Knicks, you have to think about who's on the roster. Does he duplicate some of the things that you love Josh Hart for? Yes, but do you want 2 Josh Harts? Also, how could he ever be on the court at the same time as Mitchell Robinson? It's another thing.
Great point.
I kind of, my first thing is like, okay, could you ever play those 2 together? Yeah. And also the extension, this is what I call a hot potato contract. So basically they're handing you a player and basically they say pay him. And if you don't pay him, you just lost your investment. So you're kind of you're more likely to pay a little bit more because you already put some investment into that entity. So how much is he looking for this summer? There's some people they'll start at a certain spot. Some players think, hey, I didn't play, but I'm here. So you have to really think where that player's head's at, what they're looking at for the next contract.
I'm really glad you brought up the Mitchell Robinson part. I forgot about that part. To me, that's a resounding no, that he cannot play any minutes with Mitchell Robinson, because you lose ball handling, you lose shooting, you compress your spacing, and these are not players who provide open driving lanes or other opportunities for their teammates when they share the floor together. So now you're doing additional roster mitigation that you're already doing with Brunson at the 1 and Cat at the 5, or Josh Hart as a shooter. There's all kinds of things that Mike Brown has to think about in how he rolls out his rotation, that you're having to add a whole nother layer to that, to a player who wants to get paid this summer. And you add that to the equation of how and what does Deuce get paid? How and what does Mitchell Robinson get paid? To me, that's one more notch on why this is a no for me with Sochan. And again, the construction, the payment, and fact that he's out of a rotation on a championship team, I'm gonna give the thumbs down on Sochan personally.
Yeah.
All right.
Mine is kind of incomplete. I'm like, okay, is Mitchell Robinson going to be here? If Mitchell Robinson isn't here, I'm probably a little bit more inclined to take that risk. But if Mitchell Robinson's here,
Good point.
You're kind of wasting the year and then blindly giving him money based on something you haven't seen. So yeah, it makes it tough. That's kind of like a leap. That's kind of a leap right there.
Yeah, if your backup five was more of a stretch five, someone who had at least at the 30% three ball on 4 or 5 attempts, I would be more prone to have Sochan as either a small ball 5 or playing some minutes as a 4 and not worry so much about that roster construction and how they complement one another. But Mitchell Robinson is such a key part of our offensive and defensive identity that he is going to be on the floor, and he shares a lot of those minutes with Cat too. So now you're going to have Mitch, Cat, and Sochan. There's too many complications in how things fit. Yeah, you're an incomplete. I'm a thumbs down. I'm an old school Ebert and Roper fan. I'm sorry, Sistel and Ebert. So I'm going to grade things in a thumbs up and thumbs down as a shout out to my movie maestros back in the day. All right, next up. Go ahead.
Actually, just a little bit of note on that. I think a lot of people when they draw this trade up, they always put Yabusele and Hakim Dadier. And the numbers work on our end, but on the Spurs end, they can't take 2 players unless they want to cut someone. And if you look at the Spurs roster, Dadier would not make the Spurs roster. So basically, they're not going to take home Dadier. So if you did this trade, you would be trading Yabusele to the Spurs, and then you have a third team that you have to get Dadier. So that's not only if you probably have to give a Spurs a 2nd round pick, you're probably giving the third team a 2nd round pick to take Dadier. So you're probably looking at more draft capital going out. So when people draw that trade up, you have to look a little bit further.
This is why I got my guy Fritz here on the show. Adding the financial implications and draft capital implications, knowing more than just the next salary sheet is key in understanding any of these trades. So I cannot do this by myself because I don't have that capacity and understanding as he does. So you're cooking, Fritz. Appreciate you, brother. All right, moving on officially to our next option. This is another one that's been on Knicks trade chatter for like the last year. Also is, I think, on people's radar because of who runs the front office. Our old friend Ninja P, Scott Perry, Sacramento Kings. We're talking about Keon Ellis, who's currently averaging career lows, at least in the last couple of seasons. He's only averaging 5.7 points per game, 1.4 rebounds per game, and only shooting 35.5% from 3. Here's another undersized guard, right? Who kind of has a point guard's body, but a shooting guard's mentality that also struggles from 3, but can guard up, right? It's kind of like a Deuce McBride clone. Now, Scott Perry is someone who I think would have no problem doing some helpful business with the New York Knicks as long as it helped unload some of their veteran pieces and got back some young ones. This is, I think, plausible. Now, would I do it? The financial implications are, again, this guy wants to get paid. He's in the final year of his $2,307,587,000 contract. I'm not sure if this was a rookie deal or some type of extension. Fritz, you can probably clarify that. But he does want to get paid next season. So you're adding this again to this cauldron of other players on the current roster that are homegrown, like Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride, having to make choices on, first of all, the positional overlap. Like, how do you split the Deuce Keon minutes if Keon's not a great shooter and neither of them are a great ball handler or a playmaker? That's strategy-wise, right? But also financially, who do you commit to and who do you not commit to? The one interesting thing about this is, hypothetically, we could give up just Batum Dadier for him because the salary would match. But why the hell would Sacramento want just Batum Dadier? To me, this signals maybe a protected first-round pick. Maybe the Wizards pick would go out, and I would rather hold any of those assets for a player that does not bring as many issues as they clean up, right? Right now, you're like, now we have 5 small guards, or now we have a crowded backcourt, or we don't really have a true backup point guard. Whatever the situation is, you're adding more while taking away some of the other solutions. So to me, on this deal, again, a lot of questions. It's more plausible, I think, than Sochan, more realistic financially. But I'm going to wait till Fritz gives his overall take before I give mine.
Yeah, this one's a little tricky. Like I know everybody say 2.3. Oh, that's not much. But the Knicks are in the first apron, so they can't take back more than they sent out. So like trading Kolek straight up wouldn't work. Trading Landry Shamet straight up wouldn't work. You're trading Bacom Dadier or someone else. Someone else more important. I think Keon Ellis is maybe an option. If you're looking for rental, and because he is going to want $15+ million per year beyond this year. It's another hot potato contract. I keep hearing the price tag for him going down. So it's very tough because you're duplicating what Deuce does best. I want Deuce to do it. And I don't think Keon Ellis wants to be less than that. Like, if you're going to pay Deuce 30 minutes, where's his minutes coming from? Like, I just don't see it. This is something you don't consider unless something else big happened and the Knicks had to fill in a big spot. Yeah, I don't see the time for him. We got McDonald's at home, basically. We have Deuce, and Deuce is shooting like his career numbers is like fifth in the NBA. Like, why would you want to take away from Deuce to give it to someone else? Like, I don't get it.
So Fritz, final verdict on Keon Ellis. What's your response?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not on Keon Ellis.
I share that same sentiment. And besides all the reasons that I've given, the undersized, the poor shooting, the positional overlap, he's also not really a great shooter overall. You can look to the free throw shooting, which a lot of the times is a good metric to what kind of shooter he can be in terms of ceiling. He's shooting 61% from the free throw line this season, and he's only a 77% free throw shooter for his career. So to me, I look at that, and that worries me too. That doesn't mean that he's on the dip, but it does mean that you can expect inconsistent ups and downs and ebbs and flows throughout the season. We need stability right now from a three-point line, and his lack of playmaking, only 1.2 assists per game for his career. To me, that doesn't make up for the scoring dips and the free throw percentage, the field goal percentage dip to 35% this year. There's too many question marks and honestly too many negatives. To me, that's a double, 2 thumbs down for Keon Ellis. I actually like the Sochan move more because it actually has a ceiling. I don't think adding Keon Ellis gives you any ceiling. I think it takes away your ceiling because it means that you're hampering or hindering Deuce McBride from fully maximizing his role off the bench by adding in and mucking it up with Keon Ellis. So we're in agreement so far. I'm interested to see where we deviate and disagree, but that might be coming up next. All right. Third, this is the one I think is the most realistic. We've actually heard not, choke points, but actual real journalists like Ian Begley and James Edwards III actually report that Jose Alvarado has been targeted. He made sense. Large Puerto Rican Latino population in New York. He's from New York as well. You can imagine him. It's very easy to picture him firing up Madison Square Garden while getting, drawing a charging foul or getting a steal and laying it up on transition. It's very easy to picture him in a New York Knicks uniform without even using Photoshop. Jose Alvarado this season, solid stats across the board, 9 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game at a decent 36% from 3 clip. He is on the final year of his deal for $4.5 million. He has one more year, but it's a player option, I believe. This year is at 4.5. So he could potentially deny that and then renegotiate his contract. But then this opens up questions on how much more, what's the role, who are you trading for? Because that 4.5, if you trade Yabu, say you trade Yabu, and I'm sure Fritz would clear up all of these inconsistencies on what New Orleans is able to bring back in terms of where they are at the salary cap. But if you trade a big for a guard, once again, you are giving us 5 small, undersized guards, 5 guys who are shooting guards and point guards' bodies, and are point guards by name, but have a shooting guard mentality that aren't super strong playmakers, right? Like Alvarado is a better playmaker, way better in my mind, and I test than Keon Ellis or even Sochan. But to me, he's not the playmaker that's better than KNick. So to me, in order for us to trade KNick, right? Like people are like, well, we need defense. I agree. And KNick's been better as of late. It's been up and down. But if you're going to trade Tyler KNick, my main man, Phil Porto, saw you in the chat. Hashtag never trade KNick. He coined that. If you don't trade him, I don't agree with that. You can't trade him, but it must be a guaranteed win. You have to win that deal, and you have to bring in a player that doesn't further compromise your roster. And I think bringing in Alvarado further compromises your roster, because now you're back to playing 2 6-foot guys? Are you playing 3 6-foot guys with Deuce and Brunson and Alvarado? Like, there's a lot of complications defensively there in a new modern NBA where switching is so paramount on ball screens. You got what, 3 guys guarding people who are 6'4" and above? Like, come on, man. I think that presents a lot of unnecessary difficulties defensively. While you do shore up your point of attack and you provide someone who can be a catch and shoot option, someone with great playoff experience, someone who's balled out in playing games against the Phoenix Suns a couple of seasons ago when he was in New Orleans. But the size, to me, this is not the deal that you trade KNick for. So, again, I'm going to pass the ball to you, Fritz, to let you give your thoughts and also give your final say on what you would do before I did mine.
I think it comes down to a little bit about the philosophy of the year. Like, we can kind of project what's good and what's bad, but I have no idea what's in Leon Rose's head. I have no idea what his plan is for beyond this year. So I don't know. Hey, next year, are we going over the second apron, or are we not? Like, without those questions, we cannot absolutely say, hey, this is bad or this is good. But one thing I could say is, when you're building championships, cheap labor is key. And one thing about KNick is only in year 2. And you can have 2 more years of KNick at this cheap price before you even think about paying him a lot more. When you have Alvarado, that price tag could change this summer. I think Alvarado on the short term could bring some real benefits to New York. But year 2 and year 3 and year 4 of KNick, I think, outweighs that immediate positive of Alvarado. I think you only do this trade if you had to trade Alvarado elsewhere for something else. Like, and this is not, you can't think of this as one trade. You think of, you're going to probably have to give up Yabusele, and then you have to fix your mistake of trading Yabusele by making a second trade to get someone else to take Yabusele's spot. So you're thinking this is part 1 of 2 parts if you want Alvarado.
Yeah, that's a great, super crucial point as well, because giving up a 5 for a 1, that's also something you haven't seen Leon Rose do a lot of. He tends to kind of trade within the same type of position that's outgoing, incoming. When he got rid of Grimes, he made sure to get back Alec Burks. When he gave up Cam Reddish, he got back Josh Hart. And gave up Randall, he gets back Cat. He tends to keep the position the same, so he doesn't have to do exactly what you just said, where, okay, I do have a 5, and now I don't have a 5. So now either Trey Jameson or Errol Hotporty has to play more minutes, or back in the day, Jericho Sims, because I gave out my only other backup center. So I agree with you. I don't think that Yabusele I don't think that would be the piece. It's more likely that it would be a KNick type trade, and anything involving KNick for Alvarado, that deal specifically, I'm also out on. 2 thumbs down.
I don't think they'd be traded for each other. Like, I think it would have to be probably Yabusele or something bigger. It would have to be something bigger going on with the Knicks than just that.
Yeah, agreed. So my final verdict for this is 2 thumbs down. Totally out on any trade for Alvarado. I think we need to be looking at bigger players that can play multiple positions and guard up without giving up 3-4 inches pause. Someone who can playmate from various positions, not just have to be a point guard who playmates, but someone who also can be a definitive shooter. It's not going to bring in as a 30. We don't need more Josh Harts, right? We need more Deucent Bryce, more Landry Shamit's in terms of their shooting prowess. So I'm 2 thumbs down. Fritz, you're also out on this as well?
Yeah. Unless it's something bigger going on, no.
And speaking of 2 thumbs down, my bum ass Dorkosaurus, Jose Alvarado 50% from the field in the playoffs on average. That's not balling out. I wasn't talking about the last playoff series, talking about the play-in game against Phoenix, where he was incredible defensively. So yeah, this is why he's blocked. All right, moving on. All right, so we agreed no Sochan, no Ellis, no Alvarado. Up next, Houston Rockets, Tari Eason. Currently averaging 12 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 1.6 assists per game, shooting a scorching 47% from 3 on damn near 5 attempts. He is in the final year of his deal. $5.6 million, needs an extension, looking for more money. Definitely in the Rockets rotation, a key cog in their defensive system, has had some real breakout games this year and has been a great complementary piece next to Kevin Durant and Jabari Smith Jr. They kind of rotate out through 3 really long guards, but can all shoot the 3 ball and all defend at a really high level, specifically in the post as rim defenders. This is a deal that I think is the most fantastical. I don't think there's any, first of all, I do not believe that he is available, but we're including him in this list because he is the most talked about player on all of Knicks Twitter. I see him in every podcast, every rant. I hear about him in other pods and in spaces. Knicks fans have wanted him for a very long time. And I don't think that the Houston Rockets are going to give him up for anything the Knicks currently have at their disposal, unless the Knicks are looking in a Mikal Bridges type trade once this summer comes along. Say that Wizards pick hits and it ends up being the 9th pick in the draft, and then this summer we have one more additional draft pick to trade. Yeah, if we end up giving up 3 firsts, maybe we can pry Tari Eason out from Houston. But what we currently have is our disposal to trade. I don't think there's any chance in hell if this is realistic. So I'm gonna let you break it down, Fritz, before I do my final. But I would love to hear your thoughts on all the implications of Tari Eason possibility.
Okay. Well, the Knicks need a Tari Eason. When it comes to the Rockets don't need anything that we're willing to give. So I think it's Tari Eason may be available, but I don't think he's available to the Knicks. You got to look at the needs of Houston Rockets. What do they need? They need a point guard. Mm-hmm. They need a legit veteran, above average point guard. They have other players in the roster they can trade to make that happen. They still have a few picks left. So if Tari Eason is traded, he is going to be traded for someone very good. Also, Tari Eason is the type of player this summer when his extension comes, your conversation with him is how much less than the max do you give him? And that's not a conversation the Knicks want to have. Like at that point, you're talking about breaking up the core of the Knicks. So if somehow you got everything you wanted in Tari Eason, you're breaking up the Knicks in the coming years to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We don't have the deal right now. We will this summer if everything hits perfectly and that Wizards pick conveys to a lottery pick. Then I do think we have the pieces to go after Tari Eason, but we're kind of more talking about the here and now than in the summer. So in terms of keeping realism in mind, this is a hell no. Not even because of my preference. My preference doesn't matter because I don't think Houston would do the deal. You look at Tyler Cohen, who is playing the best basketball of his professional career right now. He's playing great defense as well. and being a great playmaker. He's our best passer overall on this team. That fits a lot of the qualifications of what Houston would be looking at for. But I don't think that Kolek is good enough to be the starting point guard to warrant trading Tari Eason. Because Tari Eason he's such a key cog in their defensive scheme. Coming off the bench, he's kind of like the Mitchell Robinson for them. Not necessarily the offensive rebounding, but the rim protection, being able to guard 2 on a screen, being someone who can guard that ball handler and the roller and pick and roll, which is the most spammed action in the NBA. He's essential to them being one of the best defensive, not the best defensive team in the NBA, plus his ability to stretch the floor as a stretch 4 or a small ball 5. It's paramount. And I don't think the Knicks have any chance of getting him this year. Plus, getting him almost guarantees you you're not going to be able to keep Deucin Bride or Mitchell Robinson as well, because of what Fritz alluded to, a type of salary that he would be seeking in a extension wouldn't negate any possibility of our keeping our homegrown talent. And if you watch that recent James Dolan interview on WFAN, he really lamented how the Knicks really are caring about development in the young kids. This is a reason why you've seen so many of the young kids play this season under Mike Brown. That is an edict from the top, from Leon and Dolan on down, is play the kids for 2 reasons. One, they want to have a stable of players that can come in and absorb roles when other guys get priced out, and now they're in the rotation, but also for trade pieces and trade commodities. That's why Kolek, I think, his stock continues to rise, and Kevin McCullough Jr. as well, because one of the two might be a trade piece down the line. But also, I think that on a dollar store level, Diawara gives you a lot of potential of what Tari Eason is giving you right now. Tari Eason is like the most best case scenario for what Diawara could turn into on the defensive end of the ball. And I think that Diawara could give him more opportunity. So the fact that we have that potential on the roster makes me even less likely or motivated to try to give up a whole lot of things in order to get Tari Eason and overpay for them. And we agree. We might not agree on how many fleeces Leon Rose has done, but I think we would agree that Leon Rose rarely gets fleeced. So this would be a deal. If we made this deal right now, Rose is going to get fleeced in this deal. As much as I love Tari Eason, hypothetically, if you were made in my career and you make a player on what the Knicks need right now, Tari Eason checks every single box for me, right? Absolutely. But I just don't think we have the assets to get him right now, and I don't think Houston has the reason to lowball on what the return to be to send him to the Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see in the chat is that Houston is right up against the apron. That's why they haven't really made any moves so far. But they're going to make a move, but it's not going to be with the Knicks. It's yeah.
Edward Walker, 33. Glad to see you here, brother. The reason we're bringing this up is to have coherent, logical conversations about why someone can't be attained, so that people watching hopefully stop spreading misinformation and nits for clits and realize that some of these things are not only impossible, but also very unlikely. So that's why this is not here to waste your time. If you feel like we're wasting your time, you can feel free to change the channel and go somewhere else. But this is a conversation to break down what is realistic, what is not realistic, and then weigh the pros and cons for each. So just to clear that up, my friend. Great to have you here, though. Also, before we can go in, let's shout the chat. Shout out Sherwin, a main man, always loyal, always here in the chat, giving his ideas and 2 cents on who we should go after. Dortosaurus Rex, my favorite op. Nick Yak, my second favorite op. Edward Walker, my third favorite op. Summer Chosen. Summer Chosen in the chat. Salute to you, brother. Phil Porto, man, my main man, my brother, my primo. Great to have you in the chat. The Time Show. Not sure if that's Fritz or Jay Ellis, but I do know Jay Ellis is definitely watching right now, live and direct. So we love you, man. Hope you're having a great day at work. We surveyed 100 people. Who else we got? Building Blocks. I haven't seen you before. Building Blocks 6762. Great to have you in the chat. MIG 5362. Great to have you in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us, as well as Teen Rib Byram. Let's go Dink, LOL, for sure, man. I would love to have Dink paid on this roster. Don't want any other team scooping up my homie. Would want it to be the Knicks, if anybody. So, yeah, great to have all of you people here on this beautiful Friday afternoon. Wanting to have a pre-show before the game tonight. We can discuss some of these possibilities, clear up some of the Knicks for Klitz rumors that definitely dominate a lot of the conversations online, especially when we lose. When we lose, we really start hearing the Tari Easons and the Alvarados and some of the other names we're about to discuss as well. So, yeah, man, it's great to have you here. All right, moving on. We got 2 more names here that we're going to discuss. And if you guys have one in the chat that you want to talk about, feel free to drop it, and we will discuss it before we leave. Russell Westbrook, another possibility that on a team where Scott Perry is in charge. I think if we wanted him, we could have him. He's on a vet minimum, $2.2 million right now. He's averaging crazy. He's averaging damn near 15 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. He recently took over the starting point guard duties from Dennis Schroeder, a target that I wanted the Knicks to have, and he's averaging 7 assists a game. You look at those stats, just on paper, right? If you read those stats, 34% from 3 as well. If you read those stats, you said, this guy is available on the vet minimum, but you don't know the name of the player, I think most Knicks fans would be like, hell yeah. That sounds like Kolek and Jordan Clarkson combined, right? Like, sign me up. But then when you realize it's Russell Westbrook and just how much he dominates the court and the offense when he's there, and how much of a liability he also is on defense, and how his mindset really hasn't evolved with the growing NBA and his just like absolute trigger mentality when it comes to shooting and scoring. That's where some of the complications come in. I don't know if this Knicks roster can handle his personality or handle his high usage output either. There are some situations in the past years, right? Maybe like the Elfrid Payton era or the Kemba Walker era where Russ would have been the perfect person for us to go after. I think even under Tibbs, he would have been a really interesting option. But this offense, the type of movement that it requires, the type of spacing it requires, the type of three-point shooting it requires, and the type of unselfishness it requires, where you don't really, once someone goes into ISO mode, it screws everything up. And that includes Brunson. When Brunson goes into ISO mode, as we saw 2 games ago, it ruins a team's offensive dynamic. Russ would be that. He would have to mitigate his game more than he ever has on this team as a veteran. And to me, man, I don't know. I don't think it's worth it, but we'll see what Fritz says. Financially, made sense. Stats made sense. Playoff acumen made sense. Veteran leadership made sense. But player profile and player type, I don't think it made sense. And I think that it's more about the intangibles, the personality, the mindset, the usage. I just don't think this current Knicks roster is the right fit for him. And that's why we didn't go after him in the first place this past summer.
Yeah. We saw he waited a lot this summer. He wasn't on the roster in the beginning of the season because he was looking for that right role. And we see where he is, even at his age. He likes to put in minutes. So you're talking about if you brought him in on the Knicks, Tyler Kolek's development stops. Deuce McBride probably would have his minutes, but probably it tears into everyone else. So it's too much. Westbrook is kind of too much for the Knicks because he's not going. One thing Westbrook doesn't do is fit in, and I think Westbrook, you're going to kind of have to change the game for Westbrook, and we kind of need someone to fit in. And he's just too much player for the Knicks. That's going to take up too much space. That's going to stop too much development.
Well said. I'm in total agreement. It's not funny how much we agree. You and I typically, when we're looking at trade targets, we don't always see eye to eye. But today on these kind of ancillary fringe players, we seem to be right in line. I'm interested. There's a few more names on this list. I'm adding some of the ones from the chat as well. So we appreciate your feedback. Definitely want to touch on a few of these. And this name, I'm not going to make a full conversation on, but I think Dortosaurus Rex makes a decent point. Fritz, he wants to know what you think about, you specifically, about Precious Achiuwa and adding him back. That's one I thought about before.
I like Precious Achiuwa. The thing about Precious Achiuwa, he was here for a couple of years. The more usage, the better. Kind of on Precious. He never really did that well with spot minutes. So I think if you're thinking about Precious Achiuwa, Yabusele is probably not here. So if Yabusele is not here and we had to fill that spot, maybe Precious would kind of work there. But I wouldn't take Precious Achiuwa if Yabusele's on the roster.
Which player do you think is a better fit?
I know Yabu started slow, but he's a pretty skillful player. Like, you have to give him, you have to make him comfortable, and hope it just clicks in. Because if it clicks in, the 3-point shooting, the different things he does, it's more than what Precious can do.
I agree. I think that's a great point. I think you said it better than even I could have. So, yeah, agree, bro. We haven't disagreed yet. All right. Thank you for clearing that one up. Next up on the list, my favorite target, one that I brought up as a question on the putback with Ian Begley. And I was surprised to hear both Ian and Christian Winfield from New York Daily News both kind of said they hadn't heard anything on this, which is very surprising because Leon Rhodes loves his playoff experienced vets, especially ones that can play multiple positions, defend multiple positions, and have a career history of being a great three-point sniper. I'm talking about the Frenchman, Nicolas Batum, currently averaging 5 points per game, almost 1 rebound per game, 2 assists per game. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. 5 points, 3 rebounds, 40% from 3. He has one more year on his deal. Both years are about $5.6 to $5.8 million. That one for this year at 5.6 means that's more than Yabusele. So my question off the bat, Fritz, is Yabusele, I think this is a type of like forward for forward deal I could see Leon Rhodes doing. In my mind, what other contract would need to be added to Yabusele? Where are the Clippers in their salary cap dynamic? Would this take like Ariel Hotporty? I know you've told me that two-way contracts can't add or aggregate towards salary in a trade. So would this need to be Ariel? Would it need to be Batum? What type of salary combination would need to happen in order to acquire Nicolas?
It's kind of tricky because we're in the first apron. Actually, they can take a little bit more, but it'll be tricky. I think it would probably have to take 3 teams. I think it would probably have to take 3. But possible, yeah.
It would take 3 teams and only give up Yabusele?
Yabusele and someone else and another contract.
Okay. Now, can Ariel Hotporty be included in a deal?
Yes.
And so can Landry Shamet.
Shamet could be, yeah.
And we know Batum Dadier. So it would be one combination of one of those guys. I don't think Jordan Clarkson would be traded. I think his value has shown brightly during this recent stretch. But for me, the most likely would be, again, Dadier and Yabusele combined for Nicolas Batum. How do you feel about that deal?
It's interesting because of his age, but he has like a unique skill set. Like, which makes it like he is a large body and like he can always get a shot off. Like, yeah, he's a unique skill set. I do like his game. Yeah, it's hard for me to kind of envision him on this team, like how it would work, but he's a skill set that like playoff time, like, you definitely need, because he doesn't need much to warm up. Like,
right,
he's ready to go.
I think earlier when we were having the conversations about Jeremy's Sochan, and you were saying that it would require a 3-team deal, and now you're sending a pick to the Spurs for Sochan, and you're also sending a pick to say Charlotte to offload Batum. If that same dynamic would need to be happen for Batum, where now we're giving up 2 seconds in order to acquire Batum, I'm completely off the table. If we require Batum, it would have to be a best case scenario with no draft capital is outgoing from the Knicks side. Because to me, he is not worth any draft capital. He is worth a swap for a swap. And this is just my point of view. I say that, but I'm a huge fan of him. I've seen him on multiple teams, most recently the Philadelphia 76ers, who use him as a small ball capacity. We actually saw him play against us as a backup to Joel Embiid, along with Paul Reed as like this backup five who can come in and stretch the floor and not need, as you say, a lot of warming up or reps to get into rhythm. He's been doing this for damn near over a decade, too. He's got more playoff experience than any of these targets that we name, except for the last one, which hasn't been named yet. And I like his ability to play multiple positions. He actually is perfect for the role that the Knicks want Yabusele to play, where Yabusele in Philly was in pick and roll action, right? He was a lot of the ball handler in pick and roll. He was attacking closeouts from the three-point line. Here it's catch and shoot from the corners, catch and shoot from the top of the key. That's Nicolas Batum. And I like Batum's handle. Batum is someone who started his career at the 2 and the 3 in Portland and really developed an ability to put the ball on the floor and attack closeouts and get downhill. I don't think he can do a lot of that, but he can do it in spurts. If he's playing 10, 11 minutes, I like his ability to be very impactful in those 10, 11 minutes, even more so than Yabusele. But again, it's all about the outgoing capital. I really don't even think that trading a young player like Dadier is worth it for a super old veteran like Batum. Batum, to me, I see him only as a one-year rental for this season. Now, does he impact winning? Yes. Does he impact winning with minimal usage and minimal shots? Yes. Is he a consummate team player? Yes. Does he have a ton of playoff experience? Yes. Can he play multiple positions and guard multiple positions on switches? Yes. He checks every box Leon Rose has ostensibly looked at to go target players in trades and free agency. It's all about what do we have to give up to give him. Now, the Clippers are not a team we've done a lot of business with. There's no animosity, long-standing animosity out there raised with Brooklyn or Toronto, or Philly for us to do a deal with. So I think it's very plausible. But the fact that two of the most credentialed reporters for the Knicks, and Christian Winfield and Ian Bedley, have not mentioned they've heard any rumors, I don't think this has any real legitimacy in terms of plausibility. I think this is my own personal pipe dream. And that's unfortunate because I think he would be a really good deal. But if it demands Batum or demands 1 or 2 seconds, I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a nice piece. Like, just someone off the bench, like, who you can fill in a bunch of positions and just throw him out there. You don't have to be consistent. Like, he's just ready to go. Like, I think that's a kind of like an ideal situation for the Knicks. But yeah, it's tough. Like the Clippers aren't doing well, but they haven't like thrown the towel yet.
Right.
And once they throw in the towel, okay, maybe you start opening up some possibilities that weren't there. But right now, right now they haven't indicated that they're out yet.
And they have incentive not to throw in the towel because OKC owns their pick. So if it falls below a certain level, I believe it is protected to some degree. If it falls below a certain level, now OKC is dealing with another lottery pick, despite the rest of their cachet. So Clippers are definitely not trying to tank. And I don't see them having a fire sale this season. I think that fire sale comes in the summer based on how they do in the playoffs. But Batum is not a player that you're actively trying to get rid of, right? No one's ever actively tried to get rid of Nicolas Batum. He's someone that you want to keep around because of how much of a connector he is in the locker room, on the floor, how little he demands. So, there's a lot of positivities there. If he got waived or bought out or was a free agent, all over it. I think Leon would too. But I think there's probably a signaling in the front office that Batum is either not available, or if he is, it's going to require some type of draft compensation. Yo, Chut D in the house. Yo, man, shout out Public Enemy, man. Shout out Chut D, legend.
Absolutely. That's one of my like interviews I would love to have on the NBA Economy Show. Actually, I would love you to have an interview with him, like cultural, more than basketball. More than basketball.
Are you kidding me? I would be absolutely honored. Chut D, we would love to have you, my brother, on both the NBA Economy Show and the KOT Show, man. We'd love to have you finally suit up, put the jersey on, hop on the KOT court and talk ball, life, culture, politics. I think your mind and your specific point of view right now is very needed with what's going on in America and what's been going on, damn it, for the last, 3, 4, the entire existence of our country, but specifically now in the modern era. Chut D, 999 super chat. I think Yabusele's ability to throw playoff bodies around. Hell, get it. Some styles get better in March. Yabu can. I agree. I mean, in last night's playoff, 2 nights ago, in the last post-game show, I said my number one priority is to keep a team as is, because the best case scenario is Yabu hits his ceiling. And if Yabu hits his ceiling, now you have someone who can play with 3, the 4, the 5, someone who can hit threes, attack downhill, attack or closeout, and also rebound and defend the rim. That's why he was brought here. He was brought here to be the prize offseason acquisition. He hasn't yet, and Clarkson kind of has been, but I think he can be if he hits his full potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much love, Chuck D, man. We love you, brother. Again, that's an open invitation at any time. I'll make sure Jay Ellis hits you in the DMs today on Twitter to extend that invite. We'd love to have you on the show to talk life, culture, America, and the NBA and our Knicks, man. Much love, brother. Appreciate having you on the show. All right, man. Jay Ellis, my main man, thank you always for the support. Batum would be a nice pickup. I agree. Again, it just really depends on what's outgoing, right? What's the cost of it? Salute. HRM, it's the great. Soul Train, Chuck D, agreed. Chuck D, a much needed voice in today's ecosystem. We can. I'm clearing some time. Salute to the general, Jay Ellis. Let's go! We getting Chuck D in KOT. It rhymes for a reason, man. It just made sense, right? Come on through, General. Can't wait to have you to talk about life and our beloved Knicks. All right. Next up on the docket, another name that's been given to us by the chat, Saddiq Bey. You already know how Be the Motivator feels about Saddiq Bey. Let's see how Fritz Alessandro and myself feel about him. 15 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, 31% from 3 right now, playing for the New Orleans Pelicans, former Villanova Wildcat. He is in the second to last year of his deal at around $6 million. He has one more year at 6.4. Let's talk about this, Fritz. I'm going to let you go first. I got a lot to say about Saddiq Bey. I'll let you get your thoughts off to start us off.
Well, he has entered the chat as a Knicks killer after what he did a week or two ago. But one thing about he gets buckets, and that's his job, is to get buckets. You have to really think of, do we need someone like this on the Knicks? If he had defense, yeah, he would be a great fit for the Knicks, but he just doesn't have that to his game. Like, he's an offensive gift, but I can't sacrifice the defense we have to have him on the court.
Agree 100%. What are we, 8 for 8 on a green? I agree. I think what people really miss, and this context is so important in considering Saddiq Bey, that forget about the Villanova stuff, forget about his switchability, forget about the big size at the 2 or 3 spot. He's playing 30 minutes a game, and his usage is damn near around 20%. Right? That is the usage and the minutes of a starter. That is not what he would get with these New York Knicks. Mikal Bridges is solidified. Josh Hart is solidified. OG Anunoby is solidified. Those are your 3 starting wings. Behind that, Deuce McBride is solidified. So where are these minutes coming from that is not to the detriment of a young kid you're trying to develop, which Leon Rose and James Dolan clearly care about, as well as your other bench players like Jordan Clarkson or Mitchell Robinson? These players, their minutes are already less than they have been playing under Tibbs. This would detrimentally, in my opinion, for development, which has been a key focus of his season, move them back and take a step back across the board at every position. Yet Saddiq Bey is averaging the 15 points and 6 rebounds because of the usage and minutes that he has in New Orleans, because of how injury prone their stars like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones and Zion have been. He's been able to play more minutes at the 2 or more at the 3 or more at the 4 or small ball because of the injuries and opportunities that have opened it up for him to go freelance assassin in the Pelicans, who are playing for nothing. He's able to stuff his stats. Plus 31% from 3. That's not what our Knicks offensive ecosystem needs in order to be stabilized. Again, we need more Landry Shamits, not more Jordan Clarksons on this team. So to me, I'm all the way out on Saddiq Bey because his price has never been higher than it is right now. So number one, you're going to overpay. And number two, you're going to give up guys that don't demand a ball in Yabusele or don't need a lot of shots in Yabusele to get someone who needs a lot of everything in order to be average. So to me, this makes absolutely no sense. Saddiq Bey, throughout his entire career, NBA career, I have not seen him impact winning on a championship level. So I don't understand why we would go after him.
Yeah, I think he great performance, good score, but the fit isn't there.
Agreed. All right, man. We have gone through all of the role players. The last one on the list is, out of necessity, posterity. It made sense that we bring up for one last time Giannis Antetokounmpo. He recently said that he will never demand a trade from the Milwaukee Bucks, basically placing the entire onus subliminally on the front office to do something and to forcing their hand to make the decision to retain his legacy of never being the guy that asked out, that just had always been team first. I kind of call it BS on all of that. To me, he's forcing the Milwaukee Bucks front office feet to the fire to either improve this roster or to trade him on his behalf without him having to say so, which is kind of a cowardly move, man. Just to me, man up and just say, look, bro, I'm frustrated. Y'all are ass. Your team building is ass. You went out and traded my man Drew Holiday for a busted up Dame Lillard, an old Dame Lillard. Like, you got rid of Chris Middleton. Yeah, it might have been time, but for Kyle Kuzma, come on, man. Miles Turner was not a splashy enough move. That roster is going nowhere, and they have no possibility of contention. So, again, is it worth breaking up this roster for Giannis this season? I say hell no. Let's ball out and see what we have at the end of March. At the end of May, and see where we are in championship contention. And then this summer, reignite that conversation full force. I think no matter what, I've said this before, based on what I've heard, based on what my conversation with other journalists and what they're hearing from the Knicks front office, no matter what, win or lose a championship this season, I think Giannis is going to be the top priority of the front office for acquisition this summer, not during this season. Now, I don't claim myself to be a reporter. I am not reporting on the team every day. I don't have direct contacts in the front office. I have third-hand contacts. So whether any of this happens or not is beyond my scope of perception. But I do think that this team deserves a chance to build the full weight of the season and to show us what they have come playoff time.
Yeah, I think I also think Giannis is being disingenuous with that, because basically he's doing the same thing LeBron has done, but he's just doing it just in a different way. He's trying to do what LeBron did without getting the LeBron heat. LeBron has gotten in front of the camera and said, hey, do something or let me go. And he is kind of doing the same thing, but trying to be a nice guy about it. But it's the same thing. Like, he probably still wants out. He's not saying, hey, I'm going to be in Milwaukee for life. He's basically saying, I'm going to ruin this team. And then once you've had enough, you'll let me go. Like, once you've had enough, you'll let me go. And he knows that.
I agree. I think this Knicks front office has been very shrewd, fairly patient. Maybe not patient with like the Karl-Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges trades, but so far both of those have worked out more than they haven't. I don't think we do an all-in move mid-season for Giannis, because the worst part about that, there's obviously amazing parts about that, but the worst part, and to me the most fragile, is the demand it puts on Mike Brown to completely throw his offensive and defensive playbooks out the window and rebuild everything mid-season, post-training camp, post 3 months of the NBA season, around a brand new player, because Giannis then becomes the focal point of your offense, not Jalen Brunson. Because right now, at this moment, Giannis is better than Jalen Brunson. So if you have Giannis, you have to build your offense and defense around him, which means the entire playbooks are thrown out the window. That is a lot for a first-year head coach to have to assimilate to. And I think that is extremely unfair, and I don't believe that Leon Rose would do that, which is why the conversations happened in the summer, before the coaching hire, and not now. That was preemptive to say, okay, if we do go after Giannis, it's going to be for this line in the sand that we're not crossing. And then once we have him, we find a coach that matches his skill set and we unleash them together. not in the middle of a season where you completely throw a wrench in everyone's system. To me, that's bad basketball management. That's Isaiah Thomas management. That's Phil Jackson management. That's Steve Mills management. That's not Leon Rose management. And I think James Dolan, I hope, has learned his lesson by now to not meddle. And I don't think he will. So this is a summer-wide conversation, but I don't think you can have any type of trade discussion without, again, logically, objectively, even subjectively, bringing up Giannis and explaining why it's very unlikely and probably inefficient to make a trade for him midseason.
Yeah. So also, like I said before, you try to look at when you look at a team, try to look at a 3-year, 4-year window, and we say the Knicks are in a 3-4 year window, and if you got Giannis, it's like punting on the first year. Yep. It's like say, hey, you know what? I got him in the house, but this year's a wash, and we'll worry about it next year. The Knicks could go for it this year, and then this summer, get everything in order to make sure a Giannis trade makes sense, and then year 2, we're back on beat. We're not going to punt the year to just get Giannis in the house and have such an unbalanced team. There would be so many assets involved that this team would be unrecognizable.
100% agree with you. And also, if you do it during the summer, now you have a 2-3 month window where you can start game planning and strategizing on rebuilding the playbooks around Giannis on both ends of the floor, opposed to the middle of a season where now all of a sudden everyone's like, what's my role? Because everyone's role would change dramatically. Everyone would have to play differently. The rotations would be different. The lineups would be different because you have to mitigate Giannis's force, strength, downhill tempo, lack of shooting, right? Like all those things are so important to think about when building a roster. He is one of the there's probably maybe only 3 or 4 players that would mitigate roster change more than Giannis. Not to mention the holes that would be created by sending out the players that were required to acquire him, right? What does your bench look like? What does the wing stop look like now? Which ones are gone? Which ones are still here, right? Like how does Brunson play with him? It's been a year and a half, and Brunson still hasn't found his chemistry with Cat. Who's to say he's going to find his chemistry with Giannis, right off rip? Talking about 2 extremely ball-dominant players, especially in crunch time. Giannis wants that ball in crunch time. So does Brunson. Things to think about.
All right. I think there are people who would disagree with us, but the thing is, I think there's been a lot of people writing unrealistic trade scenarios. So it's like, oh, you just swap out this one player for Giannis, or they'll have to take. We're not being unrealistic. We're thinking about real scenarios and what it will take to get him here, and what it will take to bring him here. This team would not be the same team.
And look, man, this ain't no dictatorship. It's a democracy of ideas. It's the marketplace of ideas. So we like hearing we are not the authorities, right? We're just here on the show expressing our ideas. We love pushback. We love conversation. We love debating, especially me. We got wrong since the 83, who disagrees with me specifically. I think we trade Cat, Deuce, and Batum Dadier for Giannis. Cat was on TV the other day complaining about only getting 4 shots. So yes, you trade for Giannis now. While I might not think this basketball take is online with logic, I do see that he has Marlon Brando as a godfather as his AVI, so I know he knows ball when it comes to film, because that's one of the greatest performances in film history. So my man knows film ball. I don't know about ball. I'm not sure, because that's first of all, I don't think that trade is enough. And second, you don't rip apart a team in the middle of the season as a coaching staff to completely figure out how to mitigate all of those issues that are created because of that trade. We disagree there, though, but we love having you here, Ron. We appreciate you, brother. All right, one more shout out to the chat before we go over our feelings on every trade. Just Knicks. Dortosaurus Rex with the funniest comment of the night. The bench will be me, Lee, and Fritz if we trade for Giannis. It would, bro. I don't know how many games we're going to win with us 3 off the bench.
I'm in the corner.
JM 3000, salute, brother. Never KOT loyal. JV probably wouldn't pass the ball to Giannis anyway. We need a playmaker instead of Giannis. I don't know if I agree with that, like just as a statement. I do agree we need a playmaker. I think Kolek is that guy, but we need a Kolek who plays elite defense, right? If Kolek and Deuce could combine and then grow 4 inches, then yeah, we'll win the championship multiple times in a year, every year. Lee, don't you think that the price for Giannis's contract will be dramatically less than what people think because of a current CBA? Look at Trae Young. Cola Champagne Poppy. Appreciate you having here, brother. Seen you in the chat before. No, I don't think that Trae Young and Giannis are in comparable situations. Giannis has no reason for his value to dissipate from what it was last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He's essentially the same player. He's older, but same output, same production, same MVP level gravity. While Trae Young, since the ECF, since 2021, has gotten significantly worse in terms of efficiency, impact on winning, availability. They played better this year without him. That's never the case with Giannis. So no, I do not think the price for his contract will be lower. You also have to understand Milwaukee is not a free agent destination. They're a city that most players do not want to play in. They only went there because of Giannis. So if he's removed, you're starting from bottom of the bottom of the bottom barrel. You're in the Titanic level, bottom of the barrel. So they're going to want a lot in order to make it worth it. So yeah, I disagree with you there. All right, let's go through all the names and recap where we stand. Jeremy Sochan, both Fritz and I, 2 thumbs down. Keon Ellis, both Fritz and I, 2 thumbs down. Jose Alvarado, both Fritz and I, 2 thumbs down. Tari Eason, both Fritz and I, 2 thumbs up, but not possible. So essentially 2 thumbs down on reality. Fantasy, yes. Reality, no. Russell Westbrook, 2 thumbs down from Fritz and I. Nicolas Batum, 2 thumbs up from Fritz and I based on what the outgoing cost would be. But we liked the fit. And Saddiq Bey, 2 thumbs down. Wow, Fritz. First time ever. You and I in total agreement. Did not think that's how this conversation was going to go, but you know what? I love being surprised. All right, brother. Do you have any closing thoughts? And then tell the people after where they can find you.
Well, I do think the Knicks will do something this trade deadline. I just don't think it'll be anything huge. But I think there are little deals to be made, maybe even 2 ways that make sense for the Knicks. Maybe trying to get a kid we missed in the second round last year. I don't think the Knicks do have some picks coming up in the draft. I don't think the Knicks are going to be drafting players. So I think Knicks will either be like punting those or using them in a trade. I think this could be an opportunity for Knicks to get maybe a development piece for a 2-way. Also, maybe a third center because I really don't trust Porty all that much.
Ooh, I agree. I do not trust him either.
So I think I think the third center is probably the one need I think would probably definitely be filled. Is the third center.
I think the only deal that I can see happening is Yabu, and I think it's trading him for a similar positional archetype. Again, someone who can play the 4 and the 5, not the 3 and the 4, not the 2 and the 3, but specifically the 4 and the 5, which he was brought here to be to mitigate Mitchell Robinson's injuries, so he can slide in and be the 5, and also nights where Cat is getting cooked at the 4, he can be brought in as a small ball 5 or at the 4 to provide some size at that position as well. But with his 3 ball getting a little bit better, his defense and footwork, Ryan and Jay Ellis said it kind of looks like he slimmed down a little bit too. I don't know, does it look like I slimmed down as well? Maybe he retains his role on the team and we see him finish the season in the Knicks. To me, that is the best case scenario is Yabu again hits his ceiling. That's what I hope for. I agree with our main man, Chuck D. Again, appreciate the 999 super chat. Also can't wait to have you on the KOT show, NBA Economy show. To me, it's crucial that Yabusele hits the mark of what he was brought here to be. I think that's the most likely. If he doesn't, I think he'll be moved by February, but I hope he does, and I hope we finish this season with the current roster intact because I think it's a championship roster. Yeah, man, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. Actually, I do want to bring up another name, and this name has come up. Okay. Marvin Bagley III. What do you think about Marvin Bagley III?
I think it's the same as Saddiq Bey. I think he's his output, which is damn near career highs. His output is a product of usage, not playing for anything, and lots of opportunity and high minutes per game. He's also someone that is not a great defender and doesn't space the floor. He's kind of he's got best case scenario Hut Porty. Great offensive awareness, great mid-range push shot, great actually post up. He's a very good post up player as well. And he's a good standstill shooter as well from the mid range. He spaces the floor that way from like the free throw line down, but he's not a 3-point shooter in any way, and he's not a true rim protector. So I don't see a reason going after him because again, the usage and the minutes and the role that are allowing him to have the output he is in Washington would not be available here in New York. So can he do that in 40 minutes? Absolutely not. So to me, he's not worth targeting. Again, at Light Bay, his value is at the highest it's been in maybe ever since his first year as a lottery pick. I don't think his value has been as high as it is since then. So he would cost more than what I think the Knicks should give up, and I don't think he's worth it.
Yeah. I think, I didn't really have that much of a thought on Bagley because I haven't watched him that much. But I think the Knicks keeping flexibility is important. So like you never know who's going to get cut once the trade deadline is over. As long as they made less than mid-level exception, Knicks could sign them to a minimum. So maybe flexibility may be most important for the Knicks. So.
Yeah, and that's a fair argument. His usage rate is just about the same as Bey. He's at 19%, and he's playing about 20 minutes a game. Those two opportunities, those two metrics would not be met in New York, in my opinion. Even though I think he's having a pretty solid career, I just don't see the opportunity here. I don't see him getting 7 shots a game, which he's getting right now. And he can't. He's not a 3-point shooter. It's not that he's necessarily, when he does take one, he's horrible. He just doesn't really even take them. He hasn't averaged more than 1 a game since the 22-23 season. So I don't think the fit is there. The defensive ability is not there either. He doesn't check some of the boxes in terms of extensive playoff experience too. I think he's played maybe in 1 or 2 play-in games in his career too. So I don't think he fits the type of backup 5 that the Knicks would be looking for. And I think that's why we haven't heard his name float around. Only on Twitter you've seen the name float around. But Twitter is a place for people who only watch the Knicks fantasize about players they've never seen before with their own 2 eyes and just bot store watch. So I just don't think the fit is not there. If this was like the Tom Thibodeau era, back when we had Elfrid Payton or Linz Noel, hell yeah, did a flyer on someone who's a former lottery pick. We did a lot of that. But right now we need bona fide playoff experience, guys that aren't afraid of the moment when the lights get bright. So I don't think he fits that.
All right.
Fritz, tell them where to find you, brother.
On YouTube, NBA Economy Show. So we're going to have a lot of these nerdy conversations. We'll go into great details on these trades. Just on not just the Knicks, on just around the NBA. Also, Fritz handles on Twitter. So just reach out and I'll get back to you.
Hell yeah. Make sure you follow the NBA Economy Show. Go give his last episode from last night a big like. Also give it a follow. Support our main man, Fritz, one of the smartest capologists in these NBA, YouTube, Twitter streets, and also a great part of the KNick Of Time family. You can find me on Twitter at @Leescobedo, LEESCOBEDO. Had a recent essay for The Guardian come out yesterday morning on the shooting in Minnesota and how I thought the Minnesota Timberwolves and the NBA should respond to that, and also lamenting the horrific violence that we've seen and desensitization to violence that we've seen across this country in the last couple of years, but specifically under the Trump administration, which I think has been really damaging just for our morality and our ethics and our faith. It's been very troubling, as well as some heat that I have coming out for Bleacher Report this week as well on some of the voter returns for the All-Star game and the second vote returns. Follow the KOT Show at the KOT Show on Twitter. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel. We're only a handful away from 9,000 subscribers. That's our first goal. The next goal will be 10,000 subscribers. We're trying to grow the channel. And I think that JL, as someone who's been doing this since he was in a garage on SoundCloud, really deserves the support of our fan base to tell a friend to tell a friend. To check out the KNick Of Time channel for analysis, for deep X and O's chats, for also laughter and commentary on social issues. And none of us are ever afraid to talk about what's going on in the wide world. We're talking about our faith in God, our creator. And also we love each other. We're a very close-knit group of friends that love the Knicks and love one another and love our community. So please, if you have a friend who hasn't tuned in, tell us about it. Tell them about us and have them tune in tonight's post game. where I will be here, certainly J. Ellis and probably Ryan G, who will be breaking down this Knicks Phoenix game in Eds and O's fashion, but also cracking jokes and talking about the world at large. So again, please just help us get to 9,000 and then the Nets go 10K.
Four away.
Listen, man, we're only 4 away, you know, and also shout out to Chet D, one of the smartest, I think, most potent minds of our current climate, for subscribing to his channel and also supporting the show with a super chat. We cannot wait again to have you on both NBA Economy and KOT. Love you, brother, and love you too, Fred. It's great to have you and great chopping up today.
All right, absolutely.
All right, man. You know the drill. It's a mess out here in these Knicks YouTube streets. That's the show. See you tonight for the post game. We are out. Peace and love.
New York, big city of dreams. New York, big city of dreams.